All right, making his Hans and Scotty debut from KSL.com, it is Josh Furlong, Utah Insider. Josh, how you doing?
Hello, Josh.
I'm doing well. How are you gentlemen today?
Hey, how many conies am I going to end up eating? How many sacks can Utah put up against Baylor?
Ooh, that's a good question. We'll go. How about 4.5? Can I give you the over under on that?
Okay, 4.5. Give me the over under. You know what? Wait, Josh. So Scotty is our resident line setter.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So Scotty,
no, you're all good, Josh.
Set the line for us on sacks
For Utah.
Yeah, Utah and Baylor.
I will put it at. You know what? I'll go with Josh on this one. I was thinking 3.5, but let's bump it up to 4.5. Would you take the over or under on that, Josh?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like I think that 3.5, I would far more go on the over. 4.5 is a tough number, but it just depends on what this team comes out with, right? I mean, John Henry Daly has been phenomenal out there. He can't do it all by any means, but I think if he can get going and if he can get in that backfield, you have to like what Utah can do, especially in that kind of realm of the havoc plays.
Baylor right now is giving up about 2 sacks a game. Give me the under, but I'm putting it at 4.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I feel like I'm going to be eating 4 conies from the Utah side of things. Man, I could possibly be eating 3 conies from the BYU side of things. That's 7, dude. That's 7.
That's a lot of Pepto you're going to be working through.
Have you ever had a Skyline Chili dog or any kind of Skyline Chili, Josh?
I have not. I've heard a lot about it, and it just doesn't seem that appetizing to me. So maybe one of these days, when I get out to Cincinnati, we'll do that. How about that?
Oh, son, you're missing out on that.
Oh, you got to give it a shot.
Continue to live in your little hollow dwelling.
Oh, stop it.
No, you can't. You've got to get Skyline Chili in you and on you.
He's our first time on the show. We got to build up to that.
First time, long time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh.
That's right. No, you're good.
All right. Hey, all right. So Utah, when they're winning, they're blowing teams out on average 39-14. Their score differential this year. What has been the biggest change in the offense? Is it more Jason Beck or more Devon Dampier?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would lean probably more on Devon Dampier just because of what he's able to do on the defenses, right? Like they don't know exactly what he's going to provide. And so is he going to throw it? Is he going to run? Is he going to have a keeper? Is he going to option out? Which we haven't honestly seen a ton of options, but they still keep that in their bag. But I think with what he's able to do and just being a true dual threat quarterback, I think that has been much more apparent. Now, Jason Beck should deserve a ton of credit here simply because he's made this more simple, right? He's honed in on what is successful for Utah. He's not forcing a lot of these guys to read a Bible of an offense to be able to do it. You get a lot of these transfer guys in and they've been able to acclimate pretty easily. But with that said, I mean, this is still a Kyle Whittingham-led type offense in the sense that they're going to establish the run. They're going to make that the priority. And this year more than ever, they just have a bunch of guys that can do that, whether that be at your corner or quarterback, whether that be your 2 back, in the backfield with Wayshawn Parker and Akari Rogers. But now you add that option with Daniel Bray. It just gives that offense a lot more ability to kind of do a lot. So I'd probably lean with Devon Dampier, but that's tough because that does take away a lot of the credit that Jason Beck has done for this team.
Give me your 30,000-foot view of Jason Beck.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a guy that he understands that there's not one simple way to beat a team, right? Like, and there's still things where I think he's evolving as a play caller and that he's still evolving as an individual. But I think what he's able to do is just simplify it enough where he can find what works for a specific team. In years past, he hasn't always had a Devon Dampier. He hasn't always had a guy that can be a mobile quarterback. But he's finding ways to be able to be effective in what he does and with what the talent that he has. And you hear this with coaches all the time, like, oh yeah, we're gonna style our offense based off of the personnel we have. There's very few that actually can do that, and I feel like Jason has done a really good job of actually cementing that and being able to do that in a way where he really is leaning in on that. It helps that they have a phenomenal offensive line that can kind of lead the charge there. But I think with Jason Beck, he's willing to try new things. He's willing to adapt, and he's willing to kind of go with the times where in the transfer portal era, you're not going to have an offense that's going to stay consistent for 2-3 years. It's going to be one that's going to continually evolve and change every single year.
Josh Furlong, KSL.com, joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Did you see the emergence of John Henry Daly and what he's meant to this Utah defense before the season started?
Well, it's funny because like there was always talk about him as being a guy that could potentially get in the mix, but conversations that I'd had with people before that, it was, he's part of it, but he's probably not the guy that's going to be the leader of that. Logan Fano was still going to be the guy that was leading that room. You had him with Paul Fitzgerald that was going to kind of be mixing it up as 1A, 1B type mentality. And something clicked, right? Like he got on that field and something clicked, and he's been this phenomenal athlete that has this high motor. He refuses to quit. He just is everything that this defense needs. And he's one of those players that just kind of shines when the bright lights are on. And I think you can't teach that, right? You can't simulate that in practice. You can't kind of understand what that's going to be. And that's been the world of difference. Now, that's not to take any credit away from him, because he's always been this guy, whether it be at BYU or now at Utah, he's always been there. It's now just kind of showing up and manifesting itself on the field.
Josh, it feels like Kyle Whittingham's defenses have always been top 15 in run-stop defense. What is it about this defense that's struggling to stop the run at times?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have the talent. It's just it's not, especially in that defensive tackle room, it's not a lot of veteran faces. There are some veterans there, but ones that aren't necessarily they haven't had a ton of playing time. Like a Dallas Vakalahi, had he been in that unit, that would have maybe potentially added a lot more consistency, because he's been able to be in the system and be able to do what they need to. But they're relying on guys that have been either role players or freshmen to be able to fill in there. You also have some linebackers that, as part of that changes it. It also changes with the safeties when you lose a guy. Like everything kind of like escalates from there, or there's a ripple effect, I would say. And so there's some of that. I mean, some of it is honestly just this team is out of position at times, right? Like they're pursuing right, they're getting where they need to, but maybe they're just out of assignment or out of position just a little bit, and that's been the challenge. So it's been different, right? It's been different to see this team not be as effective in the run as in years past, but they've kind of flipped that, where they're much better in the pass offense than they are in the run defense. And so it's been different, but it's working for them in a way that, only they can kind of figure out.
Hans and I were discussing this in the previous segment. I want to get your thoughts on this. Wayshawn Parker has been an absolute beast, especially over the last two games. He did have 17 carries against Cincinnati, but on the season, averaging about 9.5 carries a game, nearly 10. In a perfect world, would you like to bump that up to 15 to 17 carries?
Yeah, I mean, I think Wayshawn has kind of proven himself at this point where he deserves the majority of the reps. Now, that's not to say Nakari isn't talented, and they obviously have they utilize him in a different way, whether that be in third down situations, third and short, fourth and short situations. But I think Wayshawn has proven that he just kind of has more of that versatility to him. Obviously, he can be a bruising type running back, but he can also be a guy that can get out into space and then just turn on the after jets and go down the field. So, I think with what he's been able to do the last few weeks, it really kind of shows that he should be getting more carries. That's not to say that they can't still complement these other players or utilize them. Ideally, you would give Wayshawn a little bit more carries than put it on Devon Dampier, so that his impact is less, especially being injured and having the season that he's had. This is where it needs to be, where you kind of now need to start leaning in on that while still recognizing that you do have other talented players that you can utilize.
All right, so Josh, with the remaining schedule, 2 road games, Baylor, Kansas, and then Kansas State at home. Baylor and the 2 Kansas teams. Let's just say they run the table, not even really taking into consideration what anybody else does in the Big 12. What do you think their odds are making the CFP?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're primed in a good position, but it's still going to be a challenge, right? Like I don't see a world where the Big 12 is ever going to get 3. And so there has to be a world where you either jump BYU, which is a tall task because BYU obviously has the head-to-head over them, even at a 7-2. And so I feel like they're kind of boxed in a way where they're dependent on how BYU does, but they're also dependent on other factors outside of their control. Now, with that said, the stats love Utah. You can look at a bunch of different stats from a lot of these national guys. Utah is clearly highly ranked in a lot of these areas because of what they've been able to do efficiently on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball. But where does that lie in the world of in the Big 12, right? They clearly we're going toe to toe with Texas Tech for a while, and then Texas Tech completely smothered them at the end of the game. They obviously lose to BYU. You've got these two teams above them that make it challenging. And I just don't know a world where they can get an at-large bid above BYU. Now, that's not to say it couldn't happen. BYU can lose, right? Like there's things that can happen, but I think they're kind of in this tough spot where they're boxed in. The committee can do what they want and they can kind of change how that is. Maybe the trajectory is better for Utah and BYU is going down. I don't know. We don't know what these next 3 games will be, but I think there's still a shot, right? Like, and I think at the end of the day, as long as you have a shot, that means something good for your program. Obviously, you want to be in the playoff, and getting a bowl game after being in consideration for the playoff is a tough situation. But I think given where Utah was last year, this has to be a sign of success, right? Like you have to use this as an opportunity to build. It's not what people want to hear. They want to hear going to the playoff, but I think they're still in a prime position. It's just a matter of kind of really what's around them as opposed to what they're doing on the field.
Kyle Whittingham and the staff obviously put together a remarkable team, and you wish you could have split those Texas Tech and BYU games. But if this team runs the table, which I think they should, and they're convincing in doing it, and they're able to get a Big 12 title spot, let's say Cincinnati beats BYU and Utah wins the tiebreakers, if Utah rematches Texas Tech, do you feel like that game would go differently?
I think it has a chance. I still think that Texas Tech defense is legit. There's not a lot of teams that are going to move the ball on them and be able to really establish the ground game like Utah has. That's been the challenge of Utah is, they're absolutely effective in the ground game, but if you stop it, they haven't been able to prove it very well outside of like a West Virginia type opponent that you can pass the ball. And so I think, there's trickiness there. I don't truly believe that there's a lot of greatness in Texas Tech's offense, and clearly their red zone offense has been terrible to the point where they can't score touchdowns. So, I mean, maybe it's a close game, but, I think Texas Tech still has the odds right here, and it would be a challenge. But I think that's where if Utah gets to the championship game, they have to win. I don't see a world where Utah gets 3 losses and suddenly they're in, unless that's a really close game to Texas Tech and it falls that way.
Are you ready to be a voter again on the top 60 and 60?
Oh, my favorite, maybe my favorite time of the year, right?
Yeah, we're changing it up a little bit. We're actually going to do, because there were so many transfers, and it was just hard to really grasp who was there and what they could do. So we did a 60 and 60 watch list, and now we're going to do a rank at the end of the season. So people won't get mad at us before the year, but they will get mad at us after the year is over.
Oh, yeah.
So
at least we'll have something to look back on, though, right?
Exactly.
Saving the pain for later.
Yep. Hey, Josh, we appreciate it. Looking forward to many more of these chats.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, Josh.
Josh Furlong, KSL.com, Utah Insider, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.